Dennis Kreba is a blogger, an author, and a founder of Dennis on the Run, which sounds like such an interesting blog. He is a men's wellness and sobriety advocate who writes about making healthy life choices. His book that's coming out in just a few weeks is titled Dennis on the Run, A Men's Survival Guide to Lasting Change. I understand it will be released on October 18th. Congratulations on the publishing of your article in Authority magazine titled 5 Effective Strategies for Mental Well-Being, and for your book that will be released very soon. Some things that increase your anxiety are common to many people, such as tight places, heavy traffic, large crowds. During COVID, you isolated like a lot of us had to, but you turned to alcohol to calm your anxieties. What prompted you to adopt sobriety?
Um, I mean, the long story short is I drank a ton during COVID, and really that became, you know, my way out of life, or way to cope with life. And what really hurt, or what really made it easy, was the fact I didn't have to commute anymore.
Yeah,
So, I had a 45-minute to an hour commute in the morning and in the evening. So that was, an hour and a half to 2 hours of time. So by the time I got home from work pre-COVID, it would be time to make dinner, maybe have one drink after dinner. You do take the dogs for a walk, and it's time to relax and watch some TV. But under the COVID rules, work from home, I mean, I could quite easily be off of work at 3:30 or 4, no commute. All of a sudden, I had all of this spare time, and I just started drinking. And without realizing it, I sat in front of my computer and drank and played video games and searched the internet to pass away time. And kind of before I knew it, it had really become out of control, and a way to just manage that isolation, manage that time alone, manage the stresses of COVID. And really, there was not much else to do.
isolation was deadly for a lot of children as well as
Mm.
adults. During your working hours, you are an IT manager, but was the event, well, first of all, what happened that switched you from choosing alcohol and hours on the computer to sobriety and healthier choices?
Yeah, I mean, I was on actually online board gaming with my friends. We played a lot of board games online during COVID,
Uh,
and it was a Friday night. And I remember, I was following my schedule to a T. Get off of work at 3:30 or 4 o'clock, get some drinks, have dinner, get some more drinks in, and then games would start later in that evening. So by the time we started gaming with 4 or 5 friends of mine, I was, fairly drunk, and not necessarily totally in control of my emotions.
yeah.
And that evening we played a really complicated, tough game for me. And I was trying to get some help online. I was trying to understand the game, and ultimately I got mad at my best friends, and I kind of told them where to go, and ended the call very abruptly.
Yeah,
So yeah, that's a child-friendly version of what happened.
very good.
um, so this has happened before. I lose my temper a little bit when I've been drinking and board gaming, and there's something in my mind that triggers some kind of competitive nature. Um, and I have problems controlling it more so when I'm drinking. And that moment really didn't really matter, actually, until the next morning, when I had this pit in my stomach that something was wrong, and my buddies hadn't called, nobody reached out. And I finally called my best friend that night, and I just said, hey, listen, like, we're okay, right? And he said, no, we're not okay. This is not okay. You've been very negative. You're drinking and drunk all the time, and I can't really be around you right now. And it was that moment in time that I really realized that my drinking could cause some problems, and I needed to make a change. So I stopped drinking that morning, and I haven't had another drop of alcohol since.
How amazing that your friend was that clear about setting a boundary.
Yeah,
And, what a blessing to you that he was. And
yeah. I mean, it was hard to see it at the time for sure, but and now I've turned my life into this advocate for healthy living and for sobriety. And I'm still friends with my buddy Mike.
yeah,
That we had that discussion. In fact, we're gonna play some games right after this call.
okay, good. Some healthy games where emotions are in control.
That's right. Yeah.
So that event birthed your passion for men's wellness. In the article, you list several methods that help you reduce your level of anxiety. Some of them are familiar, like deep breathing, but you also mentioned one called 54321 that was a brand new to me. I'd never heard of
Oh,
it.
okay.
Tell us about that one.
Yeah, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 kind of it's a countdown of your senses. And so the idea is to in a moment of anxiety or stress, you kind of occupy your brain and you get your brain to think about different things in your surroundings. Name one thing you can see, something you can smell, something harder, something you can taste, something you can hear. And so, you go through your senses and you identify these things, and it really calms you down. Your brain, starts to occupy itself on this, on the five senses rather than whatever you're anxious about, and it really provides what I like to call reframing, or just letting your mind think about something else and taking the heat off of whatever you're anxious about.
It sounds very grounding, like,
Yeah.
right here in this moment, in my body, this is what's going on.
Yeah, a lot of these topics that I had in my article all go together. So deep breathing, grounding yourself, which I do a lot of, like touch your chest and your heart and just take a deep breath. Or, I mean, I talked about being in the car and just like feeling the steering wheel, just like physically feeling it. And that helps, again, your brain just reframe things. And if over time, as you train your brain, okay, I'm doing this, that means I don't want to be anxious about it. And I want you to calm down and relax a little bit about this. It's not immediate, but over time, as you can train your brain to use these techniques, deep breathing and grounding and focusing on your senses, your brain starts to realize, okay, yeah, there's no reason to be stressed out right now. We're in control here.
I love it. You literally are retraining the brain so that when you start to feel anxious, you're able to think of these other skills that will calm the brain down.
Yeah, there's quite a bit of work being done in the psychology area of things, and I'm not a psychologist, so I can just paraphrase. But
Yeah.
really, your brain has two modes. You have your fight or flight um, mode, which is, your ancient old brain, and it works the quickest. And then you kind of have this logical, sane thinking side of your brain that you want to try to engage. And these things all try to engage that logical thinking side of your brain so that you can ignore or get past what your old ancient brain wants to do as a survivalist.
It's like you want to engage the more mature, more up-to-date thinking brain rather than doing whatever that old, I call it the lizard brain. Some people call it the lizard brain, but that ancient brain that's just the fight or flight kind of
Yeah. Yeah,
reaction.
I'm a golfer. I read a lot of golf psychology, and golf psychology is starting to dig into this. And really, I'm reading a book, and the guy talks about, golf's a perfect sport that just it makes you anxious. It makes you worried. You remember the last shot you made. You see the water and the hazards, and you really have to train your brain to trust it and think logically about the next shot and just focus on it. So some of my focuses come from that training for sure.
I think any sport that's that precise, forces the person to be good at managing their thoughts. What is
Yeah, I've heard golf is unlike any other sport. But I bet other people in other sports say, well, it happens to them too. But I've never seen another sport where you just suddenly become totally useless and you don't know what you're doing and it feels like you've never golfed a day in your life before.
yeah? Okay, so what is the most valuable lesson that came out of that really dark period of time in your life?
Yeah, I think really the best thing for me is I'm a survivor. I mean, I sometimes have this negative thought in my brain that I'm not resilient, or you get into a mode where you use alcohol or anger as a response to things that happen in your life. And rather than that, I was able to take a look at the situation and make some serious changes in my life
Mhm.
and start to adopt these other methods for coping. I mean, like when you have a stressful day and you're watching TV, and people on TV have a stressful day, the first thing they do is go for a drink. And that kind of gets ingrained in society. But when you stop drinking, you can't do that anymore. You need to have these other ways of coping with things in your life. And I talk about this a lot, is busy brain. Like my mind got really busy and really full, and I had a lot of quiet time, and my brain was just going a million miles a minute after I quit drinking.
Yeah.
And these techniques around mindfulness and meditation help you just relax, stay in the moment, and like just cool your brain down a little bit and let it regurgitate things at like a normal level or a normal time frame for you.
Sounds wonderful. I'm so impressed with the personal work you were able to do, the choice that you made in that one day to never have another drink. That's amazing. On a scale of 1 to 10, what was your daily level of anxiety at its worst, and what is it now?
Yeah, I would say probably 7 or 8. I was fairly anxious. Didn't leave the house a whole lot during COVID, and I think you know it got worse and worse as you were more and more isolated and you couldn't leave the house. And I had older parents that were they winter in Phoenix, and I'm in Canada, so they wintered south, and COVID happened while they were south. So they came back to North America right in the middle of COVID. And I remember having to do a little bit of grocery shopping for them. And bear in mind, like they've got a bare house, nothing in their house in Canada when they got back. And like I couldn't find flour, I couldn't find toilet paper. It's incredibly stressful and anxious. And it just builds over time. You just get more and more anxious. So I would say by the time the incident hit, I was at a solid 7 or 8 for anxiety. I didn't want to go out. I just wanted to sit in front of my computer and drink. Um, Quitting alcohol changed everything for me. It really just put a new perspective on life. I'm probably half of that anxiety and still working through that. But I would rate myself a 3 or 4. But there's still certain things I don't like. Don't like going out still. COVID taught me, well, like, hey, I can watch events on my TV, even live events. They can live stream them, and I'm at home. I got my own bathroom. I got my wife and dogs here. There's nobody kicking my seat. There's nobody else in the crowd that's drunk, and I've been not bullied, but like a little bit bullied at some of these events, or had run-ins with people that put a negative light on there and makes me very anxious when I go to one of these big events. So I still have those things over big crowds,
Sure.
um, commuting in traffic. Heavy traffic still bothers me, even more so because I don't do it as much now. Um,
Yeah.
as work from home, you kind of have a little bit more of an open schedule, so I can kind of drive into the office or drive for groceries anytime I want. Um, but there's still some innate fears that I have around heights and tight spaces. Um, but certainly these techniques that I learned to calm down my brain and focus focus my mind from recovering from alcohol helped me big time with this anxiety. And that's why I was so thrilled to share all of that information in this feature with you.
I'm so glad you did because I think anxiety is like it's like a pandemic in our
Yeah.
culture. You know, there's so many people, many more people now that are taking anti-anxiety drugs or that are complaining about anxiety. Do you have, so I'm so grateful that you responded to that article and are publishing it. Do you have daily practices that keep your anxiety level, at a manageable level?
Yeah, of course, in some cases, I'm using the meditation, I'm using the deep breathing and the grounding actively in an anxious situation. Of course, you can try to avoid those situations or limit those, for instance, limiting time in heavy traffic,
Mhm.
um, and then applying those techniques once you're in traffic. There's still some events I love to go to, and I'm willing to deep breathe my way through when you're there, like at a hockey game. Or my wife loves concerts, so she always wants to go to concerts. Um, and so, that's daily things. I definitely recommend, if you're not meditating today, try it out. It's great. A great 10 minutes a day really is advantageous to not only anxiety, but just keeping your mind calm a little, helping you deal with those inner thoughts. Definitely recommend you check out any kind of apps with some introductions to meditation. They're great. It's not this new wave thing that people are doing from the East or something. This is actively training your brain to be more in control. I would say, is the Western thinking of this. And what really helps me with thoughts that are out of control in my mind. It also helps me in times when it's forced quiet time. Let's just say, you're in a line at a grocery store, and you're waiting to get to the till, and you can, just suddenly have a little bit of quiet time with yourself and manage it. So, there's some real life applications for all of these in your day to days.
Thank you so much for what you've shared. It's so valuable. Listeners can get more wisdom and subscribe to your blog on your website, Dennis Kreba, KREBA.com. And Dennis, you're about to engage with a friend in a game. I wish you the best. May you win the game.
Let's have fun.
Let's have fun. That's a good way to calm down too.
Yeah. Perfect. Thanks a lot, Nancy. Really appreciate chatting with you, and I love doing this feature.
I loved having you, and I'm really, again, so very proud of the work you've done for yourself and what you're sharing with other people. Bye
Yeah,
bye.
perfect. Okay. Bye. Thanks.